You have just heard one of the biggest paradigm shifts within pop music. In the 1960s, the Beatles changed the music industry completely. It's a remarkable story about how four British guys, inspired by rock and roll from America, started playing their own music and changed the way we think about pop music today. First of all, no one really wrote their own songs back then. And secondly, it was a new way of playing music never heard before. To put it shortly, it was a radical rethinking, and they produced 2 new albums each year from 1963 to 1969. So this is actually the Beatles version of a half double. They created a huge impact, and I'm just going to need some help to change the slide here. There it is. They created a huge impact in just 6 years. So what they did was they inspired a new generation of musicians to start writing their own music, which was the main driver for doubling the music industry from 1960 to 1970. Secondly, they were the first band on Earth to use their superstar status to do good. So now, 45 years later, the War is Over campaign is still running. It's pretty remarkable thinking that this is just a pop band from so many years ago. We want to do the same thing for projects. We want to create huge impact with relatively simple but very effective means. And that's the reason why we're all here today. My name is Michael Ehlers. I'm the project manager of Project Half Double, and I'm from Implement Consulting Group, where I've been working for the last 10 years. Now it's time for you guys to introduce each other. We just need to, I'm gonna take the other one. The most slim version, but it works. So I would like you to introduce yourself to the person right next to you or close to you. So who are you and why are you here today? So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do that. There will be a lot more interaction later. But I would like to introduce the first speaker today. It is Niels Ahrengot, who's the founding father of Project Half Double, together with Christina Sejer Pedersen from Landmann Unibake. So Niels is acting as the active project owner of Project Half Double, and as you know, that's a very important role in a half double perspective. So without an active project owner, the project is never going to succeed in the way that we hope it will succeed. So that's why Niels has a very important role. Besides that, Niels is also the managing partner of Implement Consulting Group, where we're about 500 consultants working with different projects and all that. So we've been working with projects for a long time, and Niels has a very strong passion for projects, which makes him a very good project owner. Niels, the scene is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me, all of you? Yeah? This number is actually the outset of this journey. Because even though we have been working for the last 30 years on truly improving the product environments in almost all types of organizations around Scandinavia, and it has become a lot better. But this number is still in this range, meaning that only about 1/3 of all projects that we set out for are actually perceived as a success when you evaluate them. So this is the problem. This is why we're here. We want to do something about that. And because there's a reason for that. The problem is that, let me see if this works. Yeah, it does. Because this number is actually a challenge for our whole economy in the Western world. Imagine that we are back in the heydays of the Beatles in the 60s, and you are right now located on the northern part of Als, where Danfoss has its headquarters. And you are back in the 1960s. You're standing outside of the main building, and you see people coming in the morning. And you will, at that point in time, see around 90 to 95% of the people coming into the building wearing blue overalls, doing a operations job. If you go down today, and it's actually a good exercise to do, standing outside of the building, watching who's arriving, then you will see that the amount of people in blue overalls have declined dramatically. So people are wearing different types of clothes, and people are doing a different job. They are doing projects. So when we talk about improving the whole Western economy, we need to do something about improving our ability to do projects. And for some reason, this is a really hard thing to communicate to politicians, actually to the whole Western world. This is what we try to do. So, thank you for being here. We simply need to do something about this. And actually, many of us in this room have somehow embarked on this journey. And I think there's a reason for that. Because I think a lot of you people in this room are actually here from Scandinavia. And not that we think we are better than others. Maybe some do, but I don't. But one thing's for sure, we have some characteristics from our heritage, which I think can actually make it easier for us to actually somehow be a spearhead in this journey. We have a very low power distance, which is a prerequisite for making this work. We are pretty highly educated, which is also important. And then we have learned to collaborate. Since we started in first grade, also me with my age, I was actually in first grade in 1966, when Beatles were, playing their music. And already at that time I learned, group work, etc. That was in the beginning of those days. So I think we have a special obligation to make this happen. And I think, the whole idea of impact, the impact that we in this room can actually have on the whole Western economy. I know this is dreaming, but this is a big idea, and we need to do something about that. So thank you very much for being here. And basically, it's simple. Sorry, it's simple. It's about. It is really simple, because it's about breaking the paradigm of how we think about projects. Because the whole project knowledge base was actually started in the 50s and the 60s. Aaron will come back to that. And the problem is that it was actually started out in construction projects. So it's all based on contractual thinking, meaning that success is primarily a matter of living up to your obligations. It's actually a matter of predictability. So your ability to be predictable. But this is not what it's about. It's not a contractual thing. It's about making impact. And impact is, in the end, measured by one measure, which is stakeholder satisfaction. And this is the paradigm shift. You know, sorry. When we then look into the academic world, it's interesting to see that there's of course been writing a lot of articles about project management, and there's been a lot of articles about, you know, how can we actually rethink project management. But there are actually very few articles about how to do it. And that's the idea of this journey, to actually come out with some simple tools to break this paradigm. That's the idea with Project Half Double. And as you know, those of you who have been part of it, which is many of you, it's simple. It's about creating another perspective on leadership. It's about, which is this figure, it's about putting much more effort into the people side of project management, meaning going from a matter of system thinking to a matter of people thinking. It's people who actually change the world. It's not systems. It's about impact. It's about having relentless focus on impact instead of having primary focus on deliverables. And then it's about flow. It's about creating short and fat projects. Making the project move instead of optimizing resources. Making the project move. So in that sense, it's really, really simple. We also know that it's right, because a lot of these things are not something that has been invented, you know, in the last year. A lot of the things here are topics that many of you have worked on for years. But our ability to create this movement is based on the fact that we can actually balance the idea of communicating this in a very simple way, and on the other hand, really see this working from a practical point of view. So this is the idea. And obviously, as we are talking about impact, we need to see this number, the 30% number, change. And this is the ultimate impact that we are seeking at, to change that number to a completely different number. In your own organizations, you can choose your own number. But I think the idea of half double also would apply here, meaning that the 30% success rate should be doubled in half the time. So this is what we try to do, and our hope is, of course, that as many of us in this room can help build this wave, so to speak, in our own organizations. Because if we don't do it ourselves, I mean, it doesn't make sense. So we use a lot of time on it in our own organization. I know you do the same, and then we build it from there. To the benefit of our companies, to the benefit of our society, to the benefit of all of us. So thank you very much for being here, and I'm really looking forward to to share thoughts and ideas with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Niels. Okay, so we have a small film we want to share with you. Let's see if it works.
All projects are initiated to create impact. That's essential. The key is to identify and focus on impact right from the start. Impact changes the dialogue from being centered around technical deliverables to ensuring stakeholder satisfaction. Flow is key. When flow is missing, important project hours are lost in coordination, retrospective project reporting, and shifts between multiple projects at the same time. By focusing on flow, we're using simple methods to intensify project work, ensure progress every week, and deliver results faster. We aspire to revolutionize the way projects should be led, with less bureaucracy, less formal steering committee meetings, and less contractual focus. We need less compliance and more commitment. And we need leaders who can cope with turbulence, conflicts, and complexity. Leaders who focus on people, work closely together, handle issues in joint force, and know the project at its core.
So it's all about impact, flow, and leadership, and that's one of the reasons why we're here today. But let's just go through the purpose. The purpose is to establish the half-double methodology as a new project paradigm. We've been working on this paradigm for the last, or at least on the methodology, on the last 3 years. And now we are in a kind of a mode where we have a ready-to-go live version of Project Half-Double. We know it's going to change from here, but at least this is the combined learning and input and all the great things that you've given us from the community to kind of bound together a methodology that we think will be able to do projects in half the time with double the impact. So the sub-purposes is, first of all, to enhance collaboration across the community, because when you talk to each other, things start happening, and this is very much about creating the wave that Niels referred to just before. The second purpose is to share some of the results from the pilot projects that we've done so far. So in the last year, we've done 7 experiments trying to apply this methodology, but also to develop it as we moved along. And we've learned a lot, but we also created quite some results out there that we would like to share with you. The third thing is to make the methodology travel. So today we will try to dive into each of the core elements so that you will have an opportunity to do some of these things in your own organizations. Try to make it work back home. And then lastly, giving back to the community. You have helped us a lot so far, and a very essential part of Project Half-Double is to have a strong community to kind of have the synergy going on between great thoughts happening, but also how to make this work in real life. And you have provided that input all along. So we're hoping by inviting Shenhar here to inspire you, but also to share the whole methodology, that we can give a little back to all the great things that you've given to the half-double methodology. So the program of today looks something like this. We're just about to kick off the whole session. And in a short while, you will have Shenhar to address why is this not just a Danish problem? Why is this a global issue that we would need to address? Then we'll have a short break, and after that, I'm going to introduce you to the half-double methodology as it is today. You will have an opportunity to dive into 3 out of the 9 methods after my introduction. So you will have to choose which of the 9 methods you want to get an in-depth insight to afterwards. We will do some rotations between smaller stations where you will have to make your own choices. We'll have lunch, and during lunch, we will also do a pulse check. As you know, the main principle for creating impact is stakeholder satisfaction. So we will ask you, how are we doing? Are we on the right track? And we will summarize on those results later on. But at lunch, please remember to check your email, because there you will find a link to do the pulse check of this conference. After lunch, Shenhar will introduce his perspective to Project Half Double, because we've had quite some discussions and great dialogue going on the things that we're doing, each of us. And also, Shenhar has a great way of approaching how innovation might make or break your project based on a lot of research done within the last 20 years. After the session with Aaron, we're going to have the opportunity to visit each of the 7 pilot projects to gain more in-depth insight to what did we actually do. And before that session, I'm going to introduce you to the main learnings and some of the main results. Then we'll wrap it all up with expert conclusions. We have 6 very key people to the movement that I'm going to ask a few questions, and we're going to share their answers. And then we have a small surprise for you to wrap it all up. So at 3 o'clock, we will be joining out here in the networking area to have a glass of wine and celebrate how far we've gone so far. Are you excited? Yes. Are you at the right conference? Good start. This is actually interesting because we looked into some of the prominent researchers within project management, and we came about Shenhar, who's a professor in project management. He's also a world leader within projects and innovation management. The interesting thing here is that we figured that Aaron would be able to inspire us. And when we talked to Aaron, it turned out that he was actually doing a lot of similar things that we were doing. So we were not just talking to someone who might be able to inspire us. We were actually talking to someone who was at the exact same journey as we are. And that's remarkable. And that's the reason why we have Shenhar here today, because there is a remarkable overlap between the things that we think should be done and the thing that Aaron is really doing in reality. So, as you can see, amazing credentials, having spent 20 years actually doing projects, ending as a corporate VP, and another 20 years in academics with about 150 publications and 6 books. We have we have actually a thought leader within project management with us today. So, Aaron, will you do us the honor of telling us why is this also a global problem? Please give an applause to Aaron.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here. It's my second visit to Denmark. First visit was 30 years ago. I came back and I found a community of very nice people, friendly people, and I welcomed the opportunity to be here. But I still didn't figure out what's the best Danish food. If somebody can enlighten me on that, please talk to me. And if you want to talk to me about other things, I'll be here throughout the day. I was invited by the team of Half Double. And I want to thank this team for the invitation. They've been very kind and very receptive and very hosting very well. So I want to thank the Michael Ehlers, the project manager, the owner, as I met yesterday, and the rest of the team, the Christine and Per Severing and the university, this collaboration and all the other team. I think you're doing a very important job and nice job. So I congratulate you for this effort. I was asked to share with you my perspectives about where project management is today. So a few words about myself. As you heard, I had 2 careers. Both of them are in project management. I'm a professor now. Don't be too much impressed by the word professor. I'm like anybody else. I'm a project manager. I've done projects, actually, for 20 years. And during this period, I've made every mistake possible. So then I decided it's time to learn why I made all these mistakes. I went to the academic world. Of course, you cannot correct mistakes of the past, or at least you can learn. And after another 20 years, now I have an answer, my answer, to all these difficulties, problems, and struggles and challenges that the profession is facing. That's what I want to share with you today. When I was approached by the team, we've been working and talking for, I think now, almost more than 6 months. When I was approached, I didn't know about this project, and I said, well, that's great. Somebody finally is doing something about it. Because that's what I was trying to do for the last 20 years, in fact. So let me begin. The first thing that I would like to say is that projects are increasing today. The amount of projects is increasing. And Niels referred to this, the project work is actually white-collar work. That means if you're a project manager in the right place. That's the good news. But the bad news is this. Okay? The reality is that most projects don't make it. And I want to address this question from my perspective. Why and what's going on? So, the first of all is the challenge. Projects become harder. They become more complex. They become faster. Technology is moving very fast. And competition is stronger. Innovation is very critical. And time becomes shorter. And, I'm coming to this in a few minutes, techniques have not changed much. So we as project managers, we are facing a more and more difficult task every day. Okay, here's some data. Of course, all the studies focus on large projects. So there's a project, there's studies on mega projects. You see, mega projects, by definition, almost don't meet their time and cost objectives. And you see the overruns here, which is tremendous. You have a Danish project here, you can see. Okay? The other thing is the statistics. The statistics shows there's a chaos report every year coming out about IT and communication projects. And you see the results are very consistent over the years. You see about 30% success, 20% failure, and 50% challenged. Challenge is a nice way to say, we don't like it. But what can we do? It's we finished somehow. It's not exactly what we had in mind. That's challenged. That's not good enough. As Michael said, it's good enough. As Niels said, it's not good enough. Okay, so we have to understand. Before we find solutions, we have to understand. Okay, so let me give you an example. A few examples to illustrate the point. And these are 2 major projects in aerospace. I'm involved in the aerospace. I've been in the aerospace industry. I work now with the aerospace industry in America. And I see this all the time. Huge projects suffer big overruns. Now, Boeing and Airbus have both suffered big overruns. Airbus 380 was late to market by 2 years. 2 CEOs lost their job because of this project. Boeing doubled the budget, I'm sorry, from $20 to $40 billion and a delay of 3.5 years on a huge project, okay? Huge, now these are not marginal projects. These are central business projects. Boeing had 900 orders before the project was completed, a backlog. Big disappointment, and 3 project managers were replaced. What do you think? Are they bad project managers? No, they chose the best people. You know? So there's something going on. And they have used the latest techniques in project management. Okay? And my question is, could they do better? And I believe yes. So I want to share with you my objective, my perspective about this, including my perspective about half double. I want to talk about a few other projects, and the question is, are they successful? On the top left side, you can see the Sydney Opera House. How many of you have been in Australia? Yeah, oh, you travel, guys. Great. And you have seen this building, right? Isn't it beautiful? One of the most beautiful tourist attractions in the world. But as a project, that project started with a budget of $7 million and a schedule of 6 years. When it was completed, it was finally after 16 years and $100 million. How is that from project management perspective? Not so good, right? If you have a project that is overrun, you cannot use this example, by the way. If you have a project that has a big overrun, you cannot tell your management, trust me, I'm building the Sydney Opera House. They're not going to buy it. But is it a success story or not? Today, nobody cares. Okay, in contrast, the bottom left is the Los Angeles subway. That project in the 90s decided we need a subway, a metro in Los Angeles, 11 miles of the first red line. Project set goals, meeting time, cost, safety, and operations goals. And they had another goal, to win an industry award for excellence in project management. They met all these goals, but there was only one problem. What was the problem? Anybody knows? Nobody's using it. Los Angeles is a city of automobiles. They expected 1 million passengers a year. They only had 60,000 passengers. They stopped the project. So is it success or failure? From the traditional standpoint, beautiful. So we have to go further and ask, what is really a successful project? On the right, you have the Denver airport on the top, which was a construction project. This was delayed by 1.5 years. Construction, my God. And overrun of $1.5 billion. Why? Because there's one component there, the automatic baggage system that was supposed to move the bags really quickly from one point to another, didn't work. That delayed the whole project. This project was really high-tech. I'll come to this later. The rest of the project was construction, but construction is not high-tech. They managed it exactly like they managed the rest of the airport. And it delayed the whole thing. And on the bottom, on the left, you see the Segway. You know the Segway, fantastic vehicle. That vehicle was supposed to revolutionize the world, paradigm shift in transportation. They assumed that this will replace automobiles. Under this assumption, they built a manufacturing plant in New Hampshire in America. They didn't want to outsource it. To build 60,000 Segways a year. They only sold 60,000 a year. So it was a business failure. The product is great, business failure. It didn't meet the expectations. And on the right, on the bottom, you have the, what's called the, forgot the name. You know, the Motorola. I remember. What? Iridium, that's the one. Thank you. Iridium is supposed to be a satellite cell phone. They spent $7 billion, Motorola, on this project. When it was completed, Iridium worked, but nobody wanted to buy it. You know why? Because it was heavy, expensive, $8 a minute. While cell technology moved so fast, they continued the project. Is it a success or a failure? Here's the question. Okay, so under these assumptions, I would like to go on and offer some perspective from research. So from research, we know, first of all, that planning and using the existing tools doesn't guarantee success. That's a fact. In fact, no project failed because the project manager didn't know how to use Microsoft Project. Project failed because of other reasons, and I'll come to this later. Okay? So, why project fail? Because of unclear goals, because of lack of leadership, misreading the market, and the last one is significant, didn't understand the challenges, the difficulties in this project, and it's not risk. Remember the word, it's not risk. Don't you think Boeing managed risk correctly? Of course they did. They didn't know how to address the challenges. It's a big factor in failures. And I'll come to this later. It's part of innovation, because innovation can make or break your project. That's why projects fail. So what do we know? We know that the challenges keep growing, but the methodologies don't grow so fast. So I'm going to put a question for discussion in a few minutes. I'm going to introduce the question now. Do you recognize these issues around you in your company, in your project, etc.? Okay? So, we have the book. On the left side, you have the PIM book in English. On the right, you have the PIM book in Hebrew. If you still don't know, I'm an Israeli. My accent is not Copenhagen accent. It's not an American accent. I grew up in Israel, and my first career was in Israel. I live in America now. So they have the PIM book in Hebrew. Do you have a PIM book in Danish? Yeah, you have translation. Yeah, not yet? Send me the picture. I need it. Okay? So the PIM book is like the Bible, right? So I want to ask you a question. This is all the knowledge combined in one book, and it's big. 600 pages. Keeps growing, by the way. 5th editions. They're preparing now the 6th edition. It's going to be 800 pages. I don't know. Now, this is big. It's bigger than the Bible. Okay? So I want to ask you a question. This is the knowledge. And here's the question. So we have the book, and suppose you manage the book, your project by the book, exactly by the book. Will your project be successful? What do you think? Yes? No? Maybe? Not always, right? It's not the book. I don't say the book is bad. Don't get me wrong. The book is a good thing because it includes all the knowledge and stuff. But I want to say something else about the book. It's kind of... I want to argue two things. Okay? Maybe the book is too much. And let me address this. And then the second question, maybe something is missing in the book. Why is the book too much? Because imagine that you are managing a project and you want to follow the book. I want to show you a picture from the PIM book. This is the whole story, right? The whole map. Can you imagine one project that is using all these things? Not even one. That means you don't need the whole book. Okay? When you go to a doctor, you have stomach problems. You want the doctor to treat your stomach, your pain. You don't want them to open all the medical books that they studied to find what's wrong with you. When you go to a lawyer, you have a dispute with your neighbor. You want him to solve your problem. You don't want him to use all the law books that he learned. The same thing with project. We don't need this huge book to manage project. We need much less. How do we know? That's part of the problem. Okay? So, I believe in the statement that says, less is more. Okay? You buy into this? Good. That's a great, great philosophy. Simplicity, less is more. We teach young project managers the whole book. When they come to work, they open the book and say, all right, I got to follow this and this and this and this, and then they try to be very, very precise. And then they spend a lot of time. The wisdom is to learn and know what you have to find in the book. I said the book is good. It's the knowledge. You got to know the knowledge, but it's not a guide. It's called guide. But it's not a guide how to manage projects. So we have to take the book in the right way, in the right perspective. Okay? And now we have used the rule that says the diamond principle. The diamond is something that's driving me for years in my company. We have a consulting and training company. It's a young company. And the diamond is guiding our philosophy that says everything has to be less than 4, like the diamond shape has less than 4 elements. And with this, we try to simplify everything. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay? But I said, In most project managers model, you don't need the whole book. You got to select and you got to learn to tailor. And that's an art at this stage, but we would like to turn it into a science. What does it mean? Experienced project managers know how to tailor. But it takes 20, 25 years of experience to know. And we want to educate the young generation to learn this really faster. And right now, we don't have a formal accepted way. So, I'm continuing with the research. The second question is, what's missing in the book? Okay, so I want to introduce here a conceptual picture of the knowledge growth in the world. You have here two graphs. One is the growth in technology and science. That means we want to learn faster, and we keep learning faster. Excuse me. So, the knowledge in technology and science is exponentially growing, huge. We double our knowledge every 2 years, and it's exponential. And the blue and the red shows the growth in project management knowledge. Okay, it's not that it is not growing, it's too slow. That means the gap increases. And that is the problem. That's the problem that I've been coping all these years. That's the problem that you guys in Half Double are coping. The knowledge is not growing fast enough. Okay? How do we fill in the gap? And that comes me to the question of what's missing in the book. I'm looking at every profession made of two parts, science and art. The science is the formal ways, what's in the books, the guidelines, etc. The art are the things that people do in their own experience, their own way. And like anything else, the iceberg is 20% above the water and 80% below the water. And I believe that in project management, 20% is the science and 80%. What does it mean? It means that these are the things that are important for success. As you've seen in my previous slide, when projects don't make it, they don't make it because of the books, other things. So here we go. The science part includes all the technical terms like work breakdown structure, the PER chart, and the PMBOK, everything. And the art part includes other things like managing uncertainty, managing change, managing business, managing the challenge, managing innovation, complexity. All these things are not in the book. So in my research over the last 20, 25 years, we have been trying to turn the art into science, learn from great project managers, and make this into a more structured way. And I'm going to ask you a simple question. How much time do you spend today on each part? And usually you realize you spend most of the time on the top today because you follow the rules. But these are more important things on the bottom. But you cannot make this into a science by looking at this. We went further. So we studied, as Michael mentioned, we had a lot of studies. We studied failures, why projects fail, and blah, blah, blah. And then we looked at our study and said, that doesn't give me an answer, why projects fail. Let's look the other way. When projects succeed, what do the best projects in the world have in common? Okay? So, I want to introduce one study, why some projects make it big. The biggest successes. It's the Good to Great study on project management. And we found that research was published some years ago at MIT Sloan. And we found 7 elements that they have in common. Okay? The elements are found in all the greatest projects. 7. So here we go. They create a unique competitive advantage and unique value. They took a long time until they started to work on the project, to prepare. Usually we rush to execution. In the Western society, just do it. We know what we have to do. Let's start doing it. No, wait. Make sure. Spend a long time to prepare the vision. the plan, the commitment, the people. Number 3, unique project culture. Number 4, highly qualified leader, unconditional support, good leaders with high support from the top. That's key. Doesn't always happen. Number 5, using existing knowledge. Use what you have and adapt to what you have. Number 6, the teams are flexible, change quickly, their decisions adapt to market technology and changes. They're not rigid. And number 7, pride. Okay? Strong partnership, ownership, and pride. Now look at this list. Fantastic list, right? Can you do it? I wonder. There have been tons of studies, what's called critical success factors. Started 30, 35 years ago. It didn't do anything to the profession because you cannot learn anything from a list. Because these are the secrets of the stars. And honestly, you cannot learn from the stars. To illustrate this, let's say you want to be a good leader. So look around and say, who's a good leader? Churchill. I'm going to read a book about Churchill. You read the book, and now you know how Churchill was a leader. Can you become Churchill after you read the book? Of course not. So it's not enough to have a list. So we went further in this research, and we tried to see how we can combine this into something more tangible. And we have created a cluster analysis, and we have created 3 groups. 3 groups emerged of these 7 elements. The first group is the business and the business value. The second group is the quickly adapting to circumstances, technology, changes, and leadership and team pride. Now, these things can be turned into a science. Okay? And with this mindset, we have developed a methodology. We call it SPL, Strategic Project Leadership. Later today, I will describe it briefly. Everything goes fast here, half the time. And I will also give you my perspective about half double. And here's what we do. I didn't introduce yet the SPL, but this is what we found, that the elements are not in the book yet. Okay? It's the element of business, the strategy, business value, the leadership, the team spirit, and the innovation, tailoring the project to the challenge, understanding and tailoring the project. So I'm coming back now to my questions to you. Okay? I'm repeating what have we learned from research. Okay? Why projects don't make it? And here's the question. Do you recognize these issues in your project? So take a few minutes, talk to your friend, you've just got to know your friends, talk to each other, and talk about your issues. And that's the beginning of a break. After that, 5 minutes, we take a break. Thank you.